to another episode of Tiny Table Talks. And we know, we are sorry, this episode has been a long time in coming. To be honest, it's been a fiasco the last 4 weeks, and we would like to come clean as to why. After our last episode recording, we decided to sit down and play a board game. After 4 weeks, 28 takeaways, very many naps, some thoroughly unsubtle hints to hurry up, and the 3 other players finally deciding it wasn't worth it and abandoning the game, Simon completed his first go. We have all learnt our lesson, well, 3 of us have, and promised to only play games with Simon after the podcast has been edited from now on. We hope you can forgive us. With our sins confessed and our podcast finally edited, let me waste no further time and begin our bumper-length episode. We do hope you enjoy. So this week we're going to do the same discussion concept as we did last week. We're going to put a question out there for 3 people to answer and 1 person to judge and see who can argue their case the best. This week our question was, what is the best game released since the year 2000? So that could be a PC game or a board game. And I think I'm going to start with Rob and ask him to argue his case first.
Oh, crikey. You know that I need the time when other people go to prepare my answer, right? You can't just throw me in first.
Directly under the bus.
Did that quite deliberately.
Yeah.
I have actually prepared this week, which is rare, albeit, 10 minutes before we started, but there we are. No, the game I've chosen is, I think, probably the only possible option, because I was racking my brains for a really, really long time, and when this game actually came to me, I couldn't understand how anyone could go with anything else. So I went for Minecraft for various reasons, which I shall go through now. Give you a brief background of it. I know we've spoken about it briefly sort of on this podcast before, but we haven't really gone into all that much detail with it. It's a sandbox game and arguably one of the first real sandbox games ever released. A sandbox game basically is a game that you can do anything in. The whole idea is that it is like a sandbox. You can build what you want. You can make the game into what you want, sort of within the loose constraints of it.
Kind of like Lego, right? Whereas you just have some blocks of Lego and then you can do and make whatever you like with it. And
exactly.
That's a sandbox game, but in a physical way.
It gives you the components, and then you
make
what you
fun
want with those. Yeah, exactly. So this particular game, Minecraft, is about construction and mining. So you've got to mine to get the bits that you need to construct the things that you want to build. It was developed by Mojang Studios, and if you're interested, it was written in the Java programming language, which just happened to be my favourite programming language, using the lightweight Java game library.
And it was also basically one guy, right, that created Minecraft.
Yeah, you're right.
A very wealthy individual now.
I imagine he doesn't need to work. I think he's probably doing all right for himself. So it was released, available in early access. Again, one of the first games to do it, and it's inspired many developers to do the same. Whether that's a good or a bad thing, I think, is debatable. But certainly Minecraft was released during early access, which means basically that the developer was still working on it whilst it was available to play. So you buy it with the knowledge that it's not a complete game yet, it won't work perfectly, but you get access to it and you get to be involved in the development as well. You get to suggest things to the developer, which I think is really good as sort of a gamer, because you feel like you are really involved in how this game is going to end up eventually. So I think probably I distinctly remember when this game first came out, the absolute confusion of being spawned into a world without any tutorial or any idea what you should be doing. You're just sort of plonked in this world and then told to get on with it. And bearing in mind now, this is quite a common concept. At the time, I just remember thinking, well, where's my tutorial? How does someone tell me what I should be doing? How do you show me how this game works? And it really left it down to the individual to work that out for themselves. So arguably a fairly steep learning curve to start. You learn very quickly not to dig directly down, because you will fall into a cave and die immediately. And you don't dig directly up, of course, because if you hit things like sand blocks, then they fall down and crush you and kill you. So moving on to the reason why I chose this particular game and why all of my fellow podcasters are wrong. The game itself is fantastic, but that's not the main reason I chose it. The main reason I chose it is because it has inspired so many other games as well. This was sort of, the seed that grew so many wonderful games. You've got Stardew Valley, Terraria. Okay, can I say that bit again?
No, that's staying in.
Space Engineers, Starbound, so many other, No Man's Sky, it goes on. All of these sandbox games that were developed from that original seed of Minecraft. And, still are being developed. They're still taking this concept and technology is pushing it further and further, particularly if you take No Man's Sky. I know it wasn't a particularly well-received game when it was first released, however, has had... I think probably some of the most committed developers since, and they've made it into a very, very good game now. It's a sort of sci-fi exploratory game, which has got something ridiculous like 4 trillion planets you can go and visit, all procedurally generated in-game. My mind boggles with the with that concept. That you've got a game which is actually larger than our own galaxy. Anyway, the anecdote that I've chosen to try and win over Sam this week is taken from my university days. So, so many years ago, and it's playing with a good friend Jay at university. We still play with him now. Basically, if anyone is familiar with the game Minecraft, they'll know that if you place a liquid block in the right place, usually somewhere up high with lots of sort of rugged terrain below it, it will flow for an unrealistically long distance. So you place it down on top of a mountain, for example, and it will cover the whole mountain. It's unrealistic. It's sort of not really a bug in the game, but it's something to be aware of. And Jay was introducing me to the game. He was showing me how it works. In particular, he was showing me how redstone works. Redstone, sort of to massively overly simplify things, it is essentially a dust which can carry a charge. It acts similar to a wire, basically. It can be on or off. And, you can build enormously complex things with this. If you have a quick search on YouTube, you can see people have developed working calculators in-game, which can process binary input. People have built replicas of Pong, all in-game, which I think is absolutely astonishing. Jay hadn't quite built anything this complex, but he had put a significant amount of time into building a door for his house, which would lock and then shoot arrows at anything that came close. And he was pretty pleased with himself, I think. I think it's fair to say he was quite pleased. The amount of engineering that needs to go into producing something like this is quite a lot. So it's a significant amount of time that he'd invested into this. And he was doing that, putting the finishing touches to it, while I was putting the finishing touches to the roof. It was in that very same moment that I discovered that Minecraft doesn't just have water, which you can carry in a bucket in place, but it also has lava. And I discovered that if you pour your lava bucket onto the top of a new house, it flows unrealistically far into the lovingly crafted redstone contraption that Jay just finished. Now, it was in that moment, as I watched my lava monstrosity fan out in all directions, totally out of control at this point, I couldn't have stopped it even if I wanted to, I made a decision that in hindsight I am rather ashamed of, and I decided not to warn my dear friend to face his wrath, but rather to run as fast as my little avatar's blocky legs could carry him in totally the opposite direction, leaving the man that I chose to be the best man at my wedding to melt slowly into his doomed creation. And that was one of the funniest things that has ever happened to me in games, and why I think this game should win the best game since 2000.
So I assume he still harbours resentment for that.
We haven't spoken about it since. It's not a topic I'm willing to bring up.
One question. Why did you have lava on the roof?
I was wondering that.
Yeah. That's a fair question.
This sounds premeditated.
Yeah. Now, I'm not sure I'm willing to discuss this in such a public domain, to be honest with you. No, so the reason that I had lava on the roof, we were basically making... we were trying to... Oh, God, it's really complicated. Okay. So basically, by mixing lava and water together, you can create stone. And we were using that stone to build stuff with. No, actually, do you know what? I'm lying. I had lava on the roof because it made really funny patterns when you dropped it on the floor. And I just wanted to see what happened when you dropped it on the roof. And I've come clean. Jamie, I'm sorry.
Excellent. It's interesting, actually, this, because... you know that I'm actually not too sold on Minecraft, in that I had a sort of brief foray into it, and
you couldn't build Isengard, could you? That was the last straw.
Claire, I can't tell if you're taking the mick now, because every time we talk about this story,
Yeah,
you
you
choose
say
a different
place in Middle Earth. Yeah, you just couldn't build the Shire, and it put me off Minecraft a bit, which I know you're aware of. So that was quite a ballsy move, I suppose. The sandbox games are something I used to struggle with. I remember years and years ago, a friend of mine got really into a game called Little Big Planet, which was a game you could get on the PS3. I think it probably was out on PC as well, I'm not sure.
No, it was a PS3 exclusive.
You just PS3 exclusive. And you can make your own sort of funny platform game. And a few of my friends were obsessed with this, and I was fairly sure it was I couldn't believe anybody paid any money for it. Like, I genuinely thought it was the biggest waste of time in the world. But obviously that led to something like Minecraft in a sort of roundabout way. And as you say, Minecraft has led to games which are far more interesting, and they've certainly sort of piqued my interest a bit more.
You should check out Terraria. It's a great game.
I shall try if I can work out how to spell it.
There's a lot of R's.
And we'll go from there. So yeah, I think you've actually made a very good argument in favour of Minecraft.
You can't give Rob credit for making a point on behalf of a game he didn't make. So he said Minecraft was great because of the games that it spawned, but that doesn't prove that it's any good. I would actually like...
Well, it proves it.
Hang on a second, Sam. You're supposed to be an impartial judge. And Simon and I...
Oh, I can hear the
Simon
soapbox.
and I haven't finished slating Rob yet. In fact, we haven't started.
And I will never stop.
Yeah.
Rob, I'm just not sure what the point of Minecraft is. Are there objectives, or is it a bit like a sort of a never-ending thing?
It totally is, Claire. Yeah, it is never-ending. You can play it for as long as I guess your processor is capable of processing the world. But basically, my response to that would be it's really, really preferred by the younger generation, so the kids often going out and playing this game. Now, my argument is, would you rather they shot each other in some Call of Duty game, or would you rather that they are using their imagination to create interesting new things? They're learning about binary systems, about really ultimately, taking it back a few steps, computer science ultimately, and building things, letting their imagination run wild, letting the engineering side of them run wild. And I would say that's far more preferable than, one of these particularly violent games that
well, I might be inclined to agree with you if it wasn't for the fact that it's my specific job here to 100% oppose you. And on that basis, I would say that it's way better that if kids are going to build things on a computer, why not build things in real life? Why not build a hovercraft to go around your garden? Or if you're so, the tiny details like, oh, I spent this time building a door, why don't you actually build your own front door? Maybe not one that shoots arrows at your neighbours, but maybe it can shoot sweets at your postman. And you can get fruit pastel every time he comes to visit. That would be great.
I think there's a really, really good point there. And I think there is a risk, isn't there, as games get more and more in depth, that actually... why do you even need to go outside when you've got such an in-depth and fruitful world in front of you? I think it's the main reason why I like games full stop, is because it is a no consequence environment. I can pour lava on top of Jamie's house and no consequence to that at all, apart from the fact that, I probably very nearly lost a friend. I suppose if I go out and, if I want to play around with, the sort of machinery which I find interesting, engineering, equipment, motors, that sort of stuff, I need to know half what I'm doing to stop myself from being injured or me injuring someone else.
Yeah, but Rob, but hang on. But by that definition, your point being that you like games because they let you do things in a consequence-free environment.
Yes,
correct. But if that's your point, then what's the issue with kids going around and shooting things in a game? Consequence-free environment.
I really enjoy this impartial judgment from Sam.
Oh yeah, you changed your tune.
I mean, if he's both for and against, that does make him impartial.
If he swings enough either way, which we all know he does. Yeah, okay. Fair play. No, I don't necessarily have a response to that. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Rob, your game sounds boring.
Right, come on then. Claire, give us your entry to this this little argument.
Okay, well, my game is Gloomhaven. Which is not a surprise at all, because you've already asked me on this podcast what my favourite game was, and it's come out in the last 20 years, so obviously by default it has to be this. And indeed, it's not just me that likes Gloomhaven, but it was the most popular game of the year, allegedly, in 2017 when it came out. And I know that I've described it on this podcast before, so I'll just give a very rough overview. It's a dungeon crawling game where you get to each control your own character, and each player's character can independently attack the bad guys. It takes the combat from Dungeons and Dragons, a lot of inspiration from that, which many people would argue is the best bit of the game, although a few would say the opposite. And I think it's as close as you can get to a role-playing game for people who are uncomfortable with actually being imaginative and doing role-playing, as indeed our judge in this competition is. So it evolves so it never gets boring. You can retire a character when it fulfills its goals, so that it can come back as a different character with different items. You've got a blank slate that starts all over again. And there's also short-term goals, so to keep you interested. So there's coin collection if you're Sam, there's going up levels if you're Simon, there's actually slaying enemies if you're me. And to be honest, I don't know why Rob plays.
I think his objective is just to retire early.
I think Rob does it for the social. But he doesn't seem...
I think my objective was to draw large phalluses all over the game.
Oh, was that it?
That does explain a lot.
Oh, see, excellent things that we've been doing in Gloomhaven that you haven't been doing in Minecraft.
I feel that on Rob's behalf, there's absolutely no chance that Rob hasn't built a giant phallus in Minecraft.
Yeah, me too, to be honest. What I really like about this game is it's given us a lot of our in-jokes, or it's furthered a lot of the in-jokes. It's just a blank canvas to stamp your personality all over it. And we kind of channel that through our characters. So Sam's character, when we pulled it out of the box, it turned out to be wearing arseless chaps, which we thought was absolutely hilarious because the nature of Sam's...
Because they match the ones I've got.
Yeah, exactly. It was uncanny.
I don't feel like giving it a true explanation now. I mean, that's the perfect
This truly was
explanation. Role-playing. Sam and his famously perfect arse. But his character also seems to be very good at picking up coins, which is perfect for a man who's obsessed with picking up coins and cannot cooperate to save his life. So in this way, we've really enjoyed the jokes with it. And the best bit about it is that I know that you guys can't sledge me because I know that all three of you also love this game.
You're both you and Rob have really put your heads on the block for this one, haven't you? One's gone for a game that they know I don't like, and the other one's gone for a cooperative game. This should be a walkover for you, Simon.
Yeah, but it's only semi-cooperative when you play it.
It is only semi-cooperative. Well, it should be...
Hang on a second, Claire. I'm terribly sorry, but who does most of the damage to their own friends in that game?
Yeah, but I give you as much warning as I can.
Not always enough warning to actually move, though.
By the way, I'm about to tread on you. Great.
Yeah, I assess whether it's worth it.
Regardless of our feelings on the proposal.
Yeah, exactly.
Good Jesus. Never, ever, ever get a job in the artillery. Just cannonballs everywhere.
At least Claire dishes out damage, unlike you, Rob.
Yeah, thank you,
Hang on
Simon.
a moment, young sir. I'll have you know,
This is Rob, I always pull the miss card. About to defend himself.
Yeah, but I look damn cool doing it.
Really? Because your character's like 3'3".
Oh, I feel a bit sorry for Rob. We can't slate his character.
It's not his character's fault that Rob chose him.
Yeah, that's true. Poor character. That's a good point. Oh, you imagine all them little plastic figures just stood there. It'd be like the start of Strictly Come Dancing when they work out what celebrity they're going to get, and these plastic things just sat there going, "Oh, Rob, don't pick me, don't pick me." Oh.
I like the idea that they're like Toy Story and they're frozen in their box, but as soon as we put the genuinely humongous box of Gloomhaven away, they kind of all get out and talk about how terrible Rob is.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Rob's character's just really disappointed I don't keep the box on a really high shelf. Right, go on then, Simon. Talk about Twilight Imperium.
No, so I haven't chosen Twilight Imperium because...
Really?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, well, in that case, I feel like this is disingenuous
Oh,
from
this
the
is interesting
start.
then. So I'm intrigued. You're about to tell me about a game that you think is better than Twilight Imperium.
It's a very difficult one. I
cannot wait for this.
I'm glad everyone's rushing to the defence of TI.
No, it's not that, Simon. It's just that I know that's your favourite game, so anything else is invalid.
Let's be clear here that I believe, or at least the criteria I wrote down in my notes, was the best game, not your favourite game.
Well, okay, go on, Em.
And those things may not always be one and the same, because I can tell you there's a lot of things that you could throw at TI that I, despite loving it, would concede is a challenge with it. So the game that I think that is best that's come out since 2000
/ easiest to defend.
I don't know about that. I have no illusions that I'm going to win this competition. But I want to talk about this game anyway.
Yeah, which one?
Is BioShock. I don't know if anyone else has played it.
No.
Never even heard of it.
The first
is a sneaky move.
I just want to give you a kind of high level. I kind of figured that you guys wouldn't have played it, so I've prepared a sort of small intro for the plot, and then I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to talk about why I think it's the best game that's come out since 2000. So it's a first-person shooter / RPG, and the whole game is set in this doomed undersea utopia called Rapture. It's set. The sort of intro of the game is that it's the 1960s, and your protagonist is in an airplane crash over the Atlantic Ocean. When you kind of surface from the airplane, you notice there's a lighthouse in the middle of nowhere, and when you swim to the lighthouse, you actually find out that it's the entrance to this underwater city. So this city is built by this business magnate from the States or from somewhere, who basically intended it to be this underwater paradise where there was sort of no government oversight, no restriction. Science could go as far as science could go, art can go as far as art can go, and there's no one to tell them that they should stop or that there's any kind of moral reprehensity to where they go. Unfortunately, following that path, they discovered a new kind of genetic material which allowed the people in this city to adapt and develop sort of superhuman powers. And essentially what happens from there is the utopia kind of falls, and you join it just as the kind of aftermath of this kind of amazing decline. So think of it like the sacking of Rome, and you've just turned up 2 days later.
Oh, they should have seen this coming a mile off. Complete lawlessness was never going to work.
Yeah, but what I really like about it is that it's a really incredible and kind of unique setting, like this underwater utopia. The way that you go into this this abandoned lighthouse, and you kind of enter what I would describe as kind of an elevator, and it takes you down under the sea, and you kind of come across this huge bubbled city. So it's like kind of big airtight cities that are on the seafloor, and they're connected through different walkways and things like that. It looks incredible. The kind of art direction they went with is like this really imposing kind of Art Deco style. So you've got these like amazing buildings and big statues and things like that. What I think makes it kind of better than just your standard game or your standard shooter or whatever is that although you've got this kind of cool setup, the kind of parts of the game, the story of the game deals with some really interesting things that you would not expect to deal with in a game. So there's a lot of kind of objectivist philosophy, which incorporates things like dystopian thinking, utopian thinking. There's a lot of influence of writers like Ayn Rand, George Orwell, Aldous Huxley. So that's really something that I've never played a game like it, and something that you don't get if you play your Minecraft or your Gloomhavens.
That's really annoying because I love this game. I think it's absolutely fantastic. The narrative is highly engaging, and it reminds me a great deal of The Last of Us, which is a game we spoke about a couple of podcasts ago, where for me it wasn't so much about the gameplay, it was more about the narrative, and I was just waiting to get to the next cutscene to find out what would happen next. The feeling that it gave me throughout I find really difficult to describe, where it's like this immense sense of being really uneasy, and I can't really go into it any more than that without giving away massive spoilers for the game. So,
I was going to say, I think the reason that, or one of the reasons that I think it sticks out in anyone that's played its mind is there is an incredible twist in the game.
Yes,
about 2/3 of the way through, and it completely subverts your expectations. It comes at you like a freight train, and it is exquisite.
Okay, so a question, Simon. It's a first-person shooter, an RPG rolled into one. With the exception of its similarities to the Visigoths, why is it different or better than Destiny?
So I think the setting and the story and stuff is much is so unique and so unlike anything. Like, you can play Destiny and say, oh yeah, I can see where this has come from. It's got a dash of Call of Duty and a whole heaping of Halo, and it's all been cooked and merged together. Whereas I would say the uniqueness of the story and the setting and the art direction and the way that the world is laid out to you and the way that you explore it and learn what happened, because like I said, you're basically turning up after most of the horrific stuff has happened and you're kind of dealing with the fallout, is just extremely interesting. I think for me the twist is a nice cherry on the top.
Oh, this is a tricky one. This one, it's hard to pick between everything. I think Rob had a good anecdote, and I thoroughly see his point that what Minecraft led to is still producing some fantastic games. But
thank you very much. Excellent. Stop talking.
I'm sort of anti Minecraft. I don't like its lack of physics engine. I think it's a bit dated now.
Impartial, my arse cheek.
I don't really want to play it.
Very true.
Gloomhaven. So I do like Gloomhaven, and I'm now tied between a game which I know I like playing and a game which I've never played that sounds good, which is a bit tricky. It also means picking between a game I've never played and a cooperative game, which is also a little bit tricky.
Yeah, but it's only semi-cooperative.
It is only semi-cooperative, yeah, that's true. There's... I think I'm going to side with Gloomhaven. And I'm going to give the point to Claire this week, solely because I do really enjoy playing the game. I think it's excellent fun. I think it's a very good way to keep a board game group sort of tied in a sort of sense of regularity. Okay, so that puts Claire on 1 point, and
Rob.
I've still got 1 point.
Oh no!
So there we are. Rob and Simon lagging behind on 0 points in our little discussion league table. So I will move us on to our news segment. So Simon, what's been in the news this week?
So I went through and I just picked out a couple of things that I thought the group would be interested in terms of pieces of news. So I don't think we'll need to dwell on them particularly long, but I do think that they're quite interesting. So first of all, over the last couple of weeks, the latest Halo game has been revealed. It's called Halo Infinite. And the reveal wasn't particularly impressive. There was a lot of criticism that the graphics don't look particularly next-gen when this is going to be a next-gen Xbox launch title. The piece of news that I've selected is that they're actually going to be launching the multiplayer as a free-to-play service, which I think is quite interesting.
Is it multi-platform?
I think there'll be cross-platform potentially between PC and Xbox.
Oh, but that's okay, cool.
Yeah, but I just thought that's quite interesting, seeing as Halo's usually a kind of flagship £40-50 game that comes out for Xbox. It will be launching on PC, on Steam, not even exclusive to the Microsoft Store. And the idea that they're going to make the multiplayer free to play, I think, is quite a bold decision, but quite an interesting one. So
it's what Call of Duty have done with Warzone, I suppose, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I think that will obviously guarantee quite a big audience, and therefore quite a lot of longevity to the title.
I didn't play much Halo as a kid because I always had a PlayStation, so I never had massive exposure to it. Well, you play it around a friend's house and things like that. I remember really enjoying the original Halo when it came out, but I haven't played much of the. I played Halo 1 and 2. I haven't played much of the newer ones.
So this new
have they moved on a long way? Or?
So at this one, actually, the Halo Infinite, they've said they are trying to emulate, or they're trying to encompass the sort of feeling of the first game. So if you enjoyed the first game, I think that's kind of what they're aiming to be. So kind of big sprawling levels that you can tackle in your own sort of way, and you're back on the Halo rings, because I think the story's gone all over the place since those kind of simpler early games. Sticking with the video game theme, and maybe tying back into last week's episode, or the episode in which we talked about Divinity Original Sin, the studio that created Divinity, and their next game is going to be Baldur's Gate 3, which is technically it's a sequel, I guess, because it's 3, but the second one came out in the early 2000s and was kind of heralded as one of the last great computer RPGs set in a kind of isometric setting. So they're bringing out Baldur's Gate 3. It was supposed to be launching in August, which I was actually quite looking forward to, because it looks very much like they've taken Divinity Original Sin 2 and amped it up to 11 in all areas, which is a positive thing in my opinion.
Nice Spinal Tap reference.
Yes, indeed. And unfortunately, it's been delayed out of August. So if anyone was looking forward to playing Baldur's Gate 3 in August, they're going to be slightly disappointed, although they have hinted that it's not going to be particularly long a delay. Interestingly, as kind of Rob mentioned, this will be launching in early access, which I believe is something they've done with their previous games to great success.
How can you access it early?
So I think what they mean is that they're going to release part of it, get the feedback, and then take that feedback and tune the full release of the full game.
So it's not like the VIPs get in early.
No. Anyone will be able to buy in, and obviously buying in will get
testing.
you kind of. It's like an early access. I think what they did with Divinity is they gave you access to kind of the first map or the first area, and you could play that as many times as you liked. And then once they released the game proper, it then opened up all of the other parts of the game and the subsequent maps. And
excellent.
Segueing from Baldur's Gate D&D into my next piece of news, which is they have recently released or unveiled a revamped version of the Curse of Strahd D&D campaign. So I think Claire and I were talking about D&D while we were doing our review this past couple of weeks, and I was asking what campaign she was you were playing, wasn't I, Claire?
Yeah.
So Curse of Strahd is not the one you're playing, but it is one of the ones that's kind of the most beloved of the newer campaigns that have been released, and it's kind of like a gothic horror. Vampire Dracula kind of inspired campaign setting that's very, very popular.
Amazing.
Yeah, I've played some of it. I've never played it through to completion, and it is exceptionally fun. The theme and I think anyone that's never played Dungeons and Dragons before can kind of really get on board with vampires, because they're so ubiquitous in all other kinds of culture and media. So it's one of those. So it's so popular that they're releasing a new collector's edition on its fifth anniversary or something like that. So with that, you get like a new softcover printing of the manual for Curse of Strahd. You get a nice new dedicated book of all the monsters that are specific to that scenario. You get a really cool double-sided map, which I am a sucker for a map, whether it be in a book or a video game or anything like that. I think I used to have the Morrowind and Oblivion maps like blue tacked up on my wall when I was younger. So yeah, anything like that. And then my favourite thing that they're adding in this is you get 12 illustrated postcards, which the idea is that they're like visit Barovia, which is the setting, and they've got like a really nice kind of waterscape or watercolor landscapes and things like that of different parts of the game, and the idea is that the DM sends them to people when he's inviting them or she's inviting them to play the game, which I just thought was really cool.
Oh, that's great. And 12 is vastly in excess of the number of invites
I kind of expected that you could like send 3 at a time, and then if you ever want to play it again, you've got another 9 postcards to pull from. I like to think that I've gone from video games and then a video game about Dungeons and Dragons and then a piece of news about Dungeons and Dragons, and now I'm going to transition into board games because they're kind of related. So one quick bit of news. There's a very popular board game that I've never played, but I see it in a lot of lists and a lot of recommendations called Seven Wonders. I don't know if any.
Oh yeah,
Yeah?
I've been seeing that in lists
really good
of
reviews, Seven
recommendations
Wonders,
too.
Yeah, so they've
Yeah.
actually very recently announced that they're going to be printing a second edition of the base game, and actually they're also going to be re-releasing some of the most popular expansions. What you get in this second edition is updated box art and all the cards. The art on the cards is all have been updated. There's a big layout change, so some of the kind of previously quite small or cramped bits of information have been redesigned and updated, and the iconography's been improved. And they've also streamlined the rulebook to make it sort of more accessible for new players. So it's always interesting to hear, which games are warranting a second edition, because that generally means that they are successful and well loved, and therefore there'll be appetite for a second edition. And then finally, what has to be probably the biggest news, I think probably of 2020, maybe even of 2020 and 2019.
Has there been a TI expansion, Simon?
Yeah. Fantasy Flight Games had a big live stream unveiling of a load of things. So if you like any of their games, the chances are that there'll probably have been some new content announced for it. The most important, as I've mentioned, being that they are releasing an expansion for Twilight Imperium 4th edition called Prophecy of Kings. And I am extremely excited.
I can't believe you've kept this under your hat until now.
Oh yeah, I've been sitting on it all week. I'm very excited. So, base game of Twilight Imperium had 17 factions, so 17 different races or characters that you could play as. So this is adding another 7. There's going to be at least 40 new planet tiles. So the whole game, the whole map of Twilight Imperium is modular and uses hexagons. So they're adding in another 40 of those, and they'll have new planets on, new wormholes, new anomalies, new frontiers and things to discover. Probably the most exciting part is that there's also in this box going to be 2 new sets of components. So by components, I mean all the little plastic spaceships and infantry and things like that, which means that you can now play with up to 8 people.
Will that game ever end?
Yeah, have I ever come across a game where, rather than expansion, I want to hear that they've just released a reduction. In this brand new reduction, which you can purchase for $19.99, we actually remove some of the game so that you can actually finish it.
I wouldn't want to see a reduction, but you do lead on to an interesting point there, Rob, with your $19.99. Simon, how horrifically expensive is this expansion?
Let me finish listing the kind of major features, and then I'd like to hear what you think it's worth.
The fact that you're building up to this, Jeff.
So you get two. So basically, you can up the player count from 6 to 8 now. Amazing. You get orange units and pink units, like those colours.
Yeah.
All of the races now have 4 new mechs. So that's like a new class of thing that you can build and deploy and will support with things like planetary invasion and ground combat. Although they also have cool, unique abilities, which I was not expecting and I'm very excited by. And then the final kind of, I would say, big feature is that each of the factions now will have leader cards, which are kind of classed into 3 different levels of power. One that you get at the start of the game and that can be used each round, one that you have to fulfill a specific objective to unlock, and then one that you unlock but is only a sort of one-use character that has like a massive game-changing impact.
Okay, so let's quickly do the maths on this. So there are 7 new
factions, 40
7
new
new
tiles,
factions,
40 new tiles, 2 whole sets
tiles.
of components, so all the plastic and all the little triangles and everything.
2 new sets.
Yeah.
Of everything for every faction.
No. So 2 new sets of plastic for the 7th and 8th player.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. 4 new mechs to go with the 8 sets of plastic, so that's more plastic.
Yeah.
And then a whole deck of new leader cards. I did leave off things like they've added more action cards and objectives and things like that, because that's not that exciting. But well, I'm excited by it, but I could understand if a lay listener would not be excited by that.
So it's quite a lot of stuff then. And
30 quid.
but the thing is, it's still an expansion. Yeah, if an expansion ever costs more than 30, yeah, Rob's right, about 30 quid, I think that's a stretch. Go on, Simon, what's it cost?
So US dollar retail is $99.99.
Oh,
Absolutely not. No.
oh
Ridiculous.
God!
Absolutely ridiculous.
I'll let you buy it, but Christ.
Yeah, that's way too expensive for an expansion. Like, I really like TI. I think it's brilliant, but as a cost for an expansion, that's obscene.
I would argue that it's probably almost as many components. It's close to as many components as the base game.
How much is the base game?
Well, no, surely not. It must be half of them. They've introduced less than half of the amount of factions and supplied things for them.
Yeah, maybe it's not close, but it's like it's over 50%.
40%?
No, I think it's over 50% when you start adding all the cards and things they've added.
The issue
Right,
is,
okay.
if I could have that or 20 pints of beer, yeah, in order to play Twilight Imperium, I need to have 20 pints of beer beforehand, and I just can't warrant the
That does
expense.
explain your performance.
Touche. I lined you up for that. Yeah, I'll give you that one.
I mean, I'm very excited to play it, Simon, but that's too expensive. Okay, so we will move on to the first of our reviews for this week, which is of a PC game that me and Rob have been reviewing, which is called Hell Let Loose, which we've got as an early release game, quite fitting with a couple of the games we've talked about so far. So it's not quite finished. But Hell Let Loose is a World War II battle first-person shooter game. It was developed by Black Matter Studios. It's an Australian company, after a successful Kickstarter campaign all the way back in 2017. It's come out on pre-release at the moment. Unlike Call of Duty or Battlefield or other games along that sort of line, this has clearly been developed to truly put you in the position of a person in the middle of a conflict, in the middle of a World War II battle. And with that in mind, sort of a Rambo-based approach is nothing but suicide. You just get nowhere. And you learn quickly to be more cautious, and it's a far more beneficial way to do things. It's more reminiscent of some of the old Conflict games. It resembles Conflict Desert Storm 2 in some ways, but still a much greater emphasis on immersive and realistic wargaming. Teamwork is an absolute key. It's the only way you can get anywhere. It's hugely important, and the different squads that you enter as you play the game communicate with each other, which is key to everything you do. It allows the medics to work out where they need to go and heal people. It allows the machine gunner to know where he needs to lay down suppressive fire, and it makes the anti-tank chap fire his rockets in the right direction. It's run on a server basis, so very similar to Ark or Space Engineers, which we've talked about in previous shows. It's worth noting that this is a game that has only just come out. It's not fully finished yet, and the servers are 1,000 times better than Ark and Space Engineers. This game's, just to repeat that, so if anyone who's involved in developing of Ark is listening, Ark's been out 3 years, and the servers are awful. This game's been out a couple of months, and the servers are excellent. Just something to think about. The game is to be honest, the game is a masterpiece of immersive gaming. It's honestly, truly brilliant at getting you involved. Being shot is genuinely scary. And for the most part, you don't know who's shooting at you. You don't know what they're shooting at you with. And if you do lose your team, you're done for. And in a word, that is stressful, to be honest. It's the only way of describing it. It's truly, truly stressful.
Just to sort of give a little bit of sort of context to that, one of the most memorable experiences I had from this game was again playing with Sam. We learned pretty quickly when we tried to play it sort of COD style and both ran off in separate directions, Ramboing it, that just wasn't going to work. So we thought we'd try and really team up and play cooperatively, which doesn't come naturally to Sam. This was shortly after he'd murdered quite a lot of our team and made a player very cross at him, but we'll get onto that later, I'm sure. So we were Sam was a machine gunner, I was a rifleman. He was laying down suppressive fire, I was moving up to capture a point. And we sort of had this moment where we both needed to cross this field, and we sort of counted each other in, because crossing a field in this game is dangerous. And so I sort of counted in 3, 2, 1, go, 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 and we ran over the hedgerow. We're both running through this field. We're so close to our destination. And just suddenly, out of nowhere, bullets start cracking around me. I look to my right and just see Sam explode in this sort of mist of blood and guts. And I sort of hit the ground. And I sort of found my little avatar sort of in this ditch, sort of rocking back and forth as bullets fly around him, dirt is being kicked up in his face, watching his mate just being killed in front of his own eyes. And it sounds really strange to say, but I was a little bit frightened. I was a little bit frightened to get back up and sort of continue advancing towards my location. And I think, just as Sam was saying, the immersion in this game is second to none. I was truly impressed at sort of how it really put you in the shoes of these poor people who were genuinely doing this to just a tiny extent. Not to say that I can relate, but really fantastic game in terms of immersion.
It really is. It's exceptional at that. It really is.
One of the things I really like is that the game, I believe, uses ordnance survey maps of the real location. So if it's not just that you're plonked into Normandy Field 1, it's an actual town that you're assaulting from World War II, from that kind of era. And they've gone to the extent of looking up the old maps and the old layouts of towns, and they've modelled the maps on those.
Yeah, it is very realistic, and I truly applaud how the developers have stuck to their guns on the realistic front. And it does mean that you regularly don't know whether the person in front of you, if they're at a distance, is friend or foe. The artillery appears from nowhere and just blows you apart, like Rob was saying. Fog of War really does sort of reign supreme in this game. But the sad thing about that is that the Fog of War does in some ways take the fun out of it. And I am really glad that the developers have decided not to put a kill cam in, for example, because every time you get killed, you want one. You want to see who shot you. And I can see why they haven't done that, because of course that ruins the immersive experience for everyone else in your team who you can then tell things to. They've got every detail right in terms of making you feel like you were in that world in the middle of a battle in Normandy or wherever you are. And it's brilliant at it. My overall opinion of this game is I think this game is absolutely exceptional. But if you ask me if I'm going to carry on playing it, I don't know the answer. I'm probably not. Mine is it's a firm no from me. I say, like a little bit like you're saying, Sam. I have such high regards for this game. I think it's absolutely fantastic. But I did not enjoy a single second of playing it. I didn't have fun at all. It was just ridiculously stressful and so frustrating and annoying. Certainly, the game we played most recently, we were just on the losing side, game after game after game. My shortest life was 6 seconds, and it was just so punishing. You would sort of run and try and play really carefully, really stealthily, and you get shot from nowhere. And not only do you get shot from nowhere, you don't find out where that person was. You don't get to sort of try and improve your game, because you can sort of work, okay, they can see me from there, so I won't sit there anymore. I just found it tremendously punishing. It's incredibly draining. And if you're listening to this thinking that you really like the idea of a game where you've got to, you spawn in and you take a good look around, you look at the map and you really slowly work out where you are, you move with all your 6 team members and you all sort of strategically move around a town really slowly and look out for every tiny detail of movement, because it might be the end of a rifle barrel, then God, go and play this game. It's amazing. But if you think for a second that this sounds a bit stressful and like the sort of thing where you're going to lie in bed at night and think about this game for an hour because you can't get to sleep, then really stay away, because if you do that for any other game, then this will blow your mind.
Have you guys found your sleep has been affected by this? Because it sounds like a very high adrenaline thing to be doing on an evening.
Yeah.
No, I can't say it's affected sleep as such, but it can't be far off it.
It did leave me quite frustrated, and poor Sam, I think, bore the brunt of that last time we logged off. I was sort of powering down the PC, being like, it's a rubbish game, I hate it, I won't ever play it again. And actually, in hindsight, with a little bit of time to calm down, I don't agree with that. It's a fantastic game, but just isn't for me. I think we spoke, Sam spoke last episode about how good it would be if a game rewarded you for skill and actually knowledge and knowing stuff. I think this might well be that game. Like, if you put enough time into it, and if you are really careful and calculated with your gameplay, I think you'd be very, very good at it. Because, of course, what we haven't spoken about is, the hierarchy. Is that, the team is split into officers. There's also a field marshal, I believe, who is also sort of sending different units over to different places. Like, I know the guy that we were with was constantly talking about trying to flank around their position. And there's obviously a tremendous amount of strategy to it as well. And I think if you have the right leadership in place, the people sending the units to the right place, probably has a massive impact on the game. I think probably as a lowly rifleman, which is what I was, your actual impact on the outcome of the game is minimal. I say with absolutely no shame that I have not killed a single person in that game, yet have died probably over 100 times, I imagine.
Countless times.
You do say that you don't think you make any difference as a rifleman, but me and you played on the same team for 4 games in a row, whatever it was the other night, and we were consistently on the losing team.
True.
Makes me wonder if there might be an impact.
It's possible.
What you're insinuating is so cruel. Look, cannon fodder is an important part of military history.
Yeah, we were definitely the forlorn hope.
We were indeed, yeah. Before we move on from this game, because I think it's obviously our opinions of it have been quite split so far. I'd like to tell a funny story from our last play.
I thought I'd gotten away with it.
I'm afraid not, because it was just too funny.
I can't wait to hear this.
Rob decided, after trying as a rifleman who couldn't kill people for a while, that maybe he'd be better off as a medic. So instead of killing people, he thought maybe I'll heal people instead. So he got himself set up as a medic, and off he went running around and continued on his normal quest to die as quickly as possible. Which meant that for a long time the team not only had no rifleman but also had no medic. Rob then managed to spend a little bit more time alive and started sort of running around trying to get to all the wounded people around our army. And he finally made it to one. He ran up to this chap, who I believe was actually our officer.
He was.
Who Rob lied down next to try and heal him up. And it then became very apparent when he'd laid down to try and heal him that Rob didn't actually know what to do to heal anyone, and was just laying down next to a wounded bloke. Now, Rob was frantically hitting around on keyboards and clicking and trying to make things happen unsuccessfully. For such a long time, of course, that the chap who was our officer was on the radio saying, "Chap who's a metre away from me, who's a medic, can you heal me, please?" And this carried on and got more. There's a timer when you get shot as to how long before you just die off the field, and he was getting more and more irate, saying, "What? Medic, you're next to me. Can you heal me, please?" And then he just started talking to the rest of the team, saying, "Who is our medic? He's right next to me. I've got a medic that doesn't heal. What's the point of this medic? This medic is useless. I don't understand what's going on." Rob carried on pressing buttons, and he was one of these has got to work. One of these has got to work. One of them's got to do something, surely. And then he found that one of them did do something. What that something was throw all of his grenades. Which then led to the even funnier statement from our officer, which was, "Oh no, this medic not only doesn't know how to heal me, but he can only throw grenades. I'm wounded and he's fixing me with explosives."
I would just like to point out
with our medic?
The fact that I could not differentiate between my morphine injector and my grenades had nothing to do with how quickly I healed this bloke. I would also like to point out how absolutely lovely this chap was about it. I do genuinely hope...
When you found the text chat, so you could say, "I don't know what I'm doing, what do I press?" Then he turned into a very lovely chap.
Yeah. I do hope through some amazing, feat of events that he does actually listen to this podcast, because unfortunately, once I found the text chat to ask him, how do I actually heal you, I couldn't find it again. So I rather hoped that I'd be able to explain myself a little bit after the stress of trying to heal someone had ended. And I couldn't. So I couldn't explain to him that I was a complete noob and that actually, I'm really sorry and thank you for being so nice about it. So whoever you are, I'm sure you remember this story because it was frightfully embarrassing and it's an excellent anecdote. I genuinely am sorry, and thank you very much for being such a decent fellow.
So currently on Steam, it's $24.99. So 5 pints or so.
Yeah, but the therapy required as a result could run into the thousands.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I wouldn't want to say don't get this game, because if what you've heard so far sounds like a game you'll enjoy, then this game's worth much more to you than 5 pints. If it sounds like what you're going to enjoy, you're going to love this game, and you'll probably never stop playing it.
I think if you like World War II shooters and you like realistic military sort of shooters, this is a fantastic offering. And
absolutely.
I think you can pick it up for less than that quite regularly is kind of my understanding.
Yeah, I got it on CD keys for far less than that, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say it's early access as well, so the price is a little bit all over the place. So yeah, if it sounds like something you'll enjoy, then yeah, for 5 pints, well worth it. For me, I'm really happy I played it. But I'm probably not going to play it again, so it probably wasn't worth it for me. It doesn't sound like it was worth it for you, Rob.
No, I would say if you're sort of on the fence and you do sort of fall on the side of getting it, not really sure about it, play it with friends. Because I think what's clear is that we clearly created some good anecdotes. Despite the fact that I didn't say I necessarily enjoyed myself, I did enjoy playing with Sam. If anything else, because if you do turn out to be absolutely appalling at it, I'm sure you'll be better than a medic who doesn't know how to heal people. So there we are.
Fantastic.
Okay. Right. So with the exception of the games we've been reviewing, what have we been playing for ourselves this week, Rob?
So the game we've been playing for ourselves is the original Age of Empires game. So the going back now probably to most of our childhoods, the original Age of Empires game, which quite frankly defined my upbringing and defined my outlook on the political situation today. So yeah, we've been sort of dabbling around with the game. To be honest, we've been playing it on and off now for I don't know, guys. How long do you reckon? Months at least.
It's comfort food, isn't it?
It's just... yeah. If you've got all of us online and we can't decide on actually what we're going to play, this is a really good game to drop into. We're all pretty damn familiar with the rules now. There's enough variation with gameplay that it doesn't get old. It's very replayable, and there's a level of nostalgia to it, which is really nice. So we've been playing a little bit of this. I think I would thoroughly recommend you get back into it if it was something you played as a kid but haven't played since. And likewise, if you are fresh to Age of Empires, it is basically a medieval base building game, essentially. So you've got to build up your economy, build up your base, create the units which you need in order to wage war, and basically do so. Go forth and conquer. The massive advantage, I think, for this game is that there is the ability to play cooperatively or against each other. And interestingly, I've never played a game against Sam. I've only ever played cooperatively with him, and I would like to know why, Sam.
Well, actually, we have played competitive games before, Bob. It's just that we've always been on the same team. The first time we ever played this together, me and you were on a team playing against Jay and Simon, which we played twice in a row, I believe.
Oh, man.
And that is like Jamie playing with a hand tied behind his back against two fairly competent people.
It does need to be said.
To explain how... I mean, I think it was the first time Simon had really played it in anger, or certainly for a while. And to explain to explain the level of Simon's dragging down of this, Jay is noticeably better than any of us at this game, like by a really sizable margin.
Yeah.
And he lost both games trying to drag forlorn Simon behind him. Come on, Simon, come on.
I never promised him I was good.
Simon's getting towards the end of the game and he's like, so what does the town centre do?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are in the castle age.
Please tell me that's a joke.
I cut down a tree.
I don't think I've much improved, to be quite honest with you.
Oh, I don't agree with that. I think that you've definitely improved. That's a side point. I think that one of the things with Age of Empires is it's the game that, more than any other game I've played, you really notice your commitment in time playing it. Like, I mean, this is going to tell a bit about what I spend a lot of time doing. But if I've played darts, I play a lot of darts. But if I play darts consistently for a week, I'm a bit rubbish on the Monday if I haven't played for a long time. But then by the Friday, I'm pretty good again. Age of Empires is the same. If you come back to Age of Empires, you'll know exactly what you're doing. You'll do everything right, but you'll do it slow and you'll do it sloppily, and you'll put things in the wrong place, and your villagers will be idle for a couple of seconds before you notice that they are. After a week of playing it, you'll get everything right again. You'll start getting your villagers moving. There won't be idle villagers standing around. You'll cut down trees. You'll mine things in the right order. You'll produce troops when you need to. You put your walls up at the right time, whatever you want to do. I really like how quickly it rewards you for playing it. So you play a bit of it and instantly you see an improvement in your own game. Like some games you can play forever and not really feel like you're getting better. Age of Empires, you feel better on your second game.
You get that as well, don't you? Where you're like, oh, I mean, you know what? I'm playing consistently good games right now. I'm going to do it. I'm going to move the AI from easy to moderate. And then you get crushed.
Big mistake.
Absolutely
Big mistake.
crushed. Yeah, the AI.
There's going to be people listening to this that are going to be laughing that we get crushed by modern AI. But I honestly cannot fathom how anyone beats them.
No, I know.
Oh, but the thing is, we've beaten them before.
Well, 3 against 1, yeah.
3 on 1, yeah.
I think I'm sure we've beaten them more than that. But anyway, like we have been at a point where we were competitive with them. But then me and Simon we haven't played for months or a fair few months for a while. Me and Simon played together as a. I think it was a 2-on-2 on moderate.
That's right. Yeah. It was 2v2.
I don't know. It was a few days ago, and we were just ripped apart. Simon had to retreat from his own base and build a new town centre like within 15 minutes, and then we spent the whole game just trying to contain,
trying to stop them. And we did, in no way did we even make a dent. I think I looked at the stats after that game, and like economically, both of the AIs were in the sort of 7,000s. Whereas with Sam, who'd done a very competent job at holding them off, was in maybe 3, and I was in like maybe 1,200.
We just got absolutely torn apart.
Oh, it was horrible.
Okay then. Simon and Claire have been reviewing Carcassonne, the classic board game in electronic form, I must add. So, what were your thoughts?
So, Carcassonne is a tile placement game. It's really simple, which makes it a great gateway game if you're looking to introduce someone into board gaming. It's the most popular game of the year when it was brought out, which was 2000. And you play by taking it in turns to place a tile. There's a piece of picture on each tile which needs to fit together with the other ones that are already on the map, which sounds like it might be difficult, but owing to the clever design of the game, it's really not. There's never a time where you can't place a tile. At least we haven't had one yet. Each tile either has a road, a castle, a monastery, or if you're getting an expansion pack, it might have a river, a pub, a cathedral, a gingerbread man, or many other things, because Carcassonne has so many expansion packs. I tried to count, but I stopped at roughly infinity.
Including a Star Wars version.
Yeah, true. I love that it's got like seasonal versions with its gingerbread Christmas stuff and also Star Wars. So once you've placed your tile, you have a number of meeples, which are little wooden person tokens, and you've never got quite as many of them as you would like to have, and you can choose to place it on the tile. There is a sense of resource scarcity here, so you might choose not to if you are short of meeples or if you're saving it for a better opportunity. When you manage to complete a piece of scenery, such as a city, and it has one of your meeples on it, then you score points for that. Crucially, if you've got your meeple on an unfinished piece of scenery, then it's effectively yours and no one else can put their meeples on it, unless they're extremely sneaky, like Simon. So you end up with a map full of busy meeples, busy being highwaymen on the roads or knights in the city, and you've effectively drawn your own map, which looks nothing at all like the real French city of Carcassonne, which is what the game is named after. We've had to do a bit of background research to find out how the game got its name, because you might have noticed that the description that I gave wasn't really closely linked to anything in real life. And we've discovered that the only thing it has in common with the city of Carcassonne is that they have walls. That's it.
I had never played it before, and often with these games I will kind of do a bit of research on the rules and stuff before we start playing, just to kind of skip over that initial period where either Claire would have to explain it to me, or I would just play a whole game and not have a clue what I'm doing, and therefore not have fun. I was very impressed to see that there was a rules explanation that was just 4 minutes long that I watched and was perfectly succinct, gave me all the information I needed to know. And I think that, I don't know, Claire, maybe you can be the judge of this, but even for my first game, I was fairly competent.
Well, frankly, I'm just a bit upset now it's turned out it wasn't my amazing explanation that caused you to get up to speed so quickly.
I mean, that definitely helped. But but what the point I want to make is that this is absolutely super easy to set up. It's very basic, and yet it's very satisfying, and it's different each time. I think one of the things that I really liked initially, before I started getting into sort of that next layer of strategy, was just how sort of appealing and pleasing the boards end up looking.
Yeah, I love that.
Because you start laying these tiles and you start building these cities and these roads, and you've got nice, some of them. Sometimes we played with the river expansion, which I actually think I would really recommend. And it just looks so quaint and so nice on the board.
It makes me genuinely want to visit Carcassonne in real life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just hope that the walls are as impressive in real life as the imaginary ones in my head based on this board game. And the other part of it that I really liked is this kind of resource management that Claire alluded to, which is around where you commit your meeples. Because there'll be certain times where you place a tile and you think, do you know what? It's early enough in the game that I know there's going to be enough tiles to complete this city, let's say. So I'm going to place a meeple in this city, and I'm going to wait, and I'm going to see what tiles I draw, and then I'm going to kind of build that city to get as many points as possible. And every time you pull a card that you're like, I could finish this city, but I could also put this somewhere else, and I might get another tile that makes that city even bigger and therefore score me even more points. There's this really nice risk reward, especially because once you've put those people down, if you don't score, you're just placing tiles and you're not kind of reaping any of the rewards. Because once you create a city or once you complete a road, you pick up your meeple, you score your points, and then you can then replay that meeple on the next tile that you place if you choose to. So there's this really interesting kind of push and pull that you get, where sort of both of us will have started little projects at the early stages of the game with I've got a meeple here on this road, and I've got a guy over here in this city, and eventually you realise that I'm not getting the tiles I need. I might have to abandon that. But in abandoning that, you leave the poor meeple just sort of sat, and he's not generating points for you. It's just a really nice theme, and it just really works. I never felt like I was directly antagonising Claire.
Oh, but you were. Wait a second.
What did you say, I don't know if Claire agrees with that.
I would say that you are the most antagonistic Carcassonne player I've ever played with.
How? Have we got any examples?
Yes! Good question, Rob. How? How can you possibly make this peaceful game of Carcassonne into something incredibly irritating? And yet, what Simon does when he has a tile that's really hard to do anything useful with, instead of just building up his own cities, which is what you'd usually do, he'll stick it on one of mine.
Or placing it innocently, yeah.
Yeah, I'll get to that awful thing that you also did later. But first of all, he'll just put it on my city, which is not something that people usually do in Carcassonne, because for every tile that's placed on my city, I get points for. So the larger the city, the more points I get. But Simon does it in such a way that he thinks I'll never complete the city, because an uncompleted city at the end of the game is worth less than a completed city. So he's taking a gamble and just being really irritating in the process.
That does sound like him.
I did do that.
That's the first thing that he does that's really annoying, and then the second thing that he does that's really annoying.
Oh, can I add something to this after?
45 minutes to
Yeah,
take a turn.
I've got a whole list, Claire.
Yes.
Let's keep going.
Yeah, would you like to contribute one? We can take it in turns. Simon's in so much trouble.
I would just like to answer. I'd just like to answer Sam's point, which was a baseless accusation that I take a long time on my turns.
No, that's not baseless.
Evidence base.
Well, I would like
baseless.
to. I would like formal rebuttal. There was a turn timer in the Steam version of Carcassonne that you can set, and Claire took longer than me. So there.
That is an awful thing that did happen. I don't know what to say, guys. I was just really sleepy.
Goodness me! But so to take longer than Simon, presumably you had like an 8-hour sleep.
Yeah, it sounds like you had to have lost consciousness for a reasonable amount of time.
It was terrible. Although in our first game, it's worth pointing out when I wasn't so sleepy that despite my computer crashing and locking me out of it, I still made up the time and was finished ahead of Simon in time.
Yeah.
So Simon does play quicker than an unconscious person.
That's true.
All right.
Right. Let's move away from that before Simon can add any clarification at all. And I'll tell you about the second thing that Simon does that's really annoying. And to be honest, it's a very good tactic. And if anyone wants to up their Carcassonne game, I would actually recommend it. But he's very good at sneaking his meeples into my city, which then means if I complete the city, it gives him as many points as it gives me. So there's no point in completing it. And although it means that both of us have probably then abandoned the meeple because there's no incentive for either of us to finish it, then I just got distracted because Simon does have a tendency to finish the cities, but I really don't know why he does that. But basically all the effort that I've previously put in to building that city, those are wasted turns. And it's very quick for Simon to turn it into a wasted turn. And so, it's a very good way of undermining your opponent. And it is absolutely infuriating, and he was better at doing that than I was, which is the reason why I'm here telling you that he's an infuriating player, and it's not the other way around.
Clever.
How was because I've played Carcassonne a few times, but only on a board. How does the online version work? Is it good? Does it work?
Yeah, I think not being able to see your opponent is a bit of a shame. And the reason for that is that I think Carcassonne is something that you should be able to have a conversation over. And when you play it online, you can't see each other. And Simon and I did really try to have a chat because we hadn't spoken in a little while. We were interested to catch up. But it's very hard because there's very short, intensive periods of of concentration. And so when you're concentrating, they are able to chat and vice versa. So that I think that would work better in real life, maybe when you could just take it a bit slower and enjoy each other's company a bit more.
I wonder if I'd have been less infuriating if we'd have been in the same room.
Probably not.
Yeah, that's true.
If anything, you're more infuriating.
A bit more. Although I've got to say, Simon, I'm very proud of you because you picked it up really quick. This is the first time that you played Carcassonne, and I'm kind of delighted that you were confident enough so quickly to be infuriating by, I would say, like your second or third game. So, to be honest, it's probably a positive.
I have to say, I just really enjoyed the game. I think that we have in previous episodes kind of been quite negative about these kind of classic-y, gateway games like Splendor, for example. And I was just really delighted at how much I enjoyed Carcassonne. When I was explaining it to my fiance, even she was quite interested in the idea because she liked the idea that it wasn't just attacking things and shooting things and killing things. It was just quite nice, easy kind of theme to understand. It looks very pretty, and actually, I think if that's something that you think can interest people into the game, that's an absolute positive point for it. But I also think that there is quite a lot of kind of strategic depth in the point scoring system and in how you end up playing your meeples. Because I think both or a lot of the games that we played, I don't know why I said both because this happened in all the games we played, were pretty close. And in fact, the last game we played came down to the very final score. I think Claire beat me by 3 points.
Yeah, I did. It was
despite
so close.
Despite me having a fairly commanding lead throughout the sort of majority of the tile laying part. And I think that, for me, that actually cemented it as something that I really, really enjoyed and would be very happy to go back to anytime. It's £25 on Amazon, and that includes the River expansion and the Abbot expansion as part of the base game. And I think, from all the games we've played, with and without the River, I think I would really recommend that you play with the River expansion, because I think it really opens up the map in quite a unique way each time. It's more... I think it's more interesting, the maps that you get from using the rivers. Claire, is it worth 5 pints?
I actually think it is. I am kind of sick of Carcassonne. I've played it too much this week, but give me 6 months and I'll kind of wish I could play it again. What's so good about it is if you have it in your house, you know that any guest that comes in is going to be able to get on with it. And part of the genius of Carcassonne as well, something we haven't mentioned, is that you can just say, okay, we're not going to play the farmer's rule, or okay, we're not going to play this expansion pack. Or if you're playing with someone who's kind of up for that, you can throw in all the rules and all the packs. It's so versatile. And to put it in context, it costs the same as Splendor. I mean, look at how much more you're getting for that.
Yeah, I would buy it over Splendor any day.
Yeah, 5 pints.
I would buy it over 5 pints, I think.
Yeah,
because
5
I think
pints
I
will only
know I'd get
last
the
you an
longevity
evening,
from it.
unless you're
yes,
Rob.
exactly.
And Carcassonne will last you a lifetime.
If you're less sold on that, or you're a bit unsure and don't want to lay down that amount of money to find out, you can get the online version for £7.20 at the moment on Steam, or you can get the online version with every single bundle for £17.73, which is a peculiar amount of money. But a little bit cheaper than the board game. I would agree with Simon that I think, and Claire, that I think that it's a bit more fun to play a board game in person. But if you want to give it a go and see if you like it, £7 on Steam. Worth a go.
It's got really good like AI and stuff as well. You could play solo if you didn't have anyone that you wanted to play with online. If you were trying to get a feel for the game.
Yeah, £7 seems like a steal to me. Right, so we'll move on to our mail segment. Has anyone written into us this week, sir?
Yes, we have had a message from Kerry in Portsmouth who would like to know what's top of our board game wish list. And I'm going to direct this question at Sam because I know that he spends more time than the rest of us put together thinking about his wish list and adding things to it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I do buy a lot of games. Interestingly, there's 2 currently that are both made by the same board game manufacturer, and it might not surprise people in this group, but I'm a big fan of Matago. I think Matago released some excellent games. They produce Treasure Island, which is a game in my collection that I'm particularly fond of. I think it's wonderfully well put together and very good fun. That's a sort of a treasure-seeking game. But they've put 2 games together which I haven't played, which get good reviews and that I'm quite excited to play at some point. One is called Inish, or Inis, depending on how you pronounce it. I'm pretty sure you're supposed to put an H on the end, despite it not being spelt with it. Which is a sort of dudes on a map game, but with a few twists that mean you play it a little bit differently. Based around Celtic history, which looks like great fun, so I'm quite intrigued to give that a go. It's a mixture of a dudes on a map game with a load of action cards that you can sort of change things as the game goes on and fiddle things. It's got quite an interesting end dynamic, which means that you end up with people who are capable of winning and people who are capable of making them win. So there's a big king-making dynamic, which you don't see in many other games. So I'm quite intrigued or excited to give that a go. And another game they've made is called Kemet. Now, Kemet is a board game that's been out a long time, and I've never played it, and I'd like to. Now, that's an ancient Egyptian, again, sort of dudes on a map, but a military dudes on a map sort of game with everyone trying to control more territories than their rivals and therefore get victory points and win that way. But they released an expansion a little while ago called Set, which introduces an interesting dynamic, which instead of all the players playing against each other, what the Set expansion does is it introduces one big baddie that the other players fight against. So you'll play, I think it's up to 4 or up to 5. So you end up with one guy on one team on his own, and then the other 3 trying to beat him. And the big bad character is as I've said, he's big and it's bad. He's more powerful than the others, and you have to work together in a particular way to be able to beat him. But of course, he's got tricks up his sleeve that he can do to make things difficult. He can, switch the power of some of your troops or do various things like that. So that's something I'd really like to have a go at. I think that looks like excellent fun. I've not had a chance to play it yet. That concludes another episode of Tiny Table Talks. If you like what you've heard, please do hit the like button on whichever audio platform you use and subscribe to the show so that you never miss a future upload. If you would like to get in contact and send in a question you would like our thoughts on, or to suggest a game you would like us to review, then please either tweet us at tinytablepod or email us at thetinytables@gmail.com. Coming up next week, we have a special episode where we focus on Simon's favourite board game, and the game that Rob once described as Eclipse for people with too much time on their hands. That's right, it's the Twilight Imperium special. We will